And welcome back to Janky AF and Year of the Aerostar, episode number 137. We have a lot to talk about today. I hope everyone enjoyed the last episode and what I'm calling the reverse April Fool's joke, where I actually played like I didn't just buy an Aerostar and actually did. We will talk about that Aerostar at length very soon. But another special one here today that we are looking through. The jig is up. We are no longer in the market for one, at least not currently. However, this is a unique one because we have actually seen it before, and I think this is the first time that we've done this, and I'll explain more. And we have some other, housekeeping, I suppose you could call it, to take care of. But before we get into that, let's reveal the vehicle so you can revel in it for a second before we sort of go down a couple of rabbit holes. So without further ado, here we have a 1986 Ford Aerostar passenger XLT minivan, listed for $3,000 in Howell, Michigan. A howling Aerostar indeed. And if this looks familiar, it is because we did not only an episode of it, episode 24 of Year of the Aerostar, but we also did a remix because the original listing only had one image, and then a couple weeks later, I believe, there was more images posted. We got some further context, and so I wanted to update it, but I didn't feel like it deserved its own episode because it was kind of still the same one, and it happened, pretty recently after. I guess it was only a few days after because it was the next sort of video that came out. So I did a remix, and I wish I could remember which episode, but an episode maybe 5 or 6 episodes ago, this was another listing that was up, and it was like in a junkyard for sale, and then that listing disappeared, and I think it's the same person, but now it's had yet another listing. This is like the 4th listing that I've seen with this Aerostar, and it's moved from, originally it was in Warren, Michigan, if you watch the original episode 24, which I think I can maybe show a screen grab of, and now it's moved to Howell, Michigan, which is about, now it looks like it's moved out into the suburbs from the main city of Detroit, according to Google Maps. So anyways, before we get into that, really quickly, I have to talk about something rather personal. Now you can see that there is a pony on my shirt. Of course, the horse was the car before the car existed. And if you have ever ridden a horse, you know that it's strangely similar to there's a reason the car replaced the horse. Like there is a proper lineage. A horse has like a 4-speed transmission, basically. You have like a walk, a trot, a canter, and a gallop. There's all sorts of crazy things that are unique to it. Now, I am a car person, but my sweetheart is a horse person. And I'm going to do a really shameless plug here for a GoFundMe that she is doing. Now, this is helping her to help horses. She has a day job like the rest of us. She really wants to turn this into something of a career or a passionate pursuit at the very least. So she would like to go to school for equine structural integration and massage. I am not the person to tell you what exactly that is, but it is sort of like an accredited certification that you can get. You can look it up if you are so inclined. If you would like to donate to my sweetheart's little cause here, and with the proviso that there are so many people in need right now. There are so many medical emergencies, health emergencies, people, drought, flooding, wildfires, earthquakes, tragedy all across the world, and all those are probably better places, frankly, to give your money. But that being said, it's still the first horse that she got, Patty, who is unfortunately no longer with us. And if you've ever witnessed a horse euthanasia, it is not a very a pleasant thing to witness. She just poured her heart and soul and time and energy and money into this horse. She did so right by him, and it was very inspiring to watch. if anyone's an animal person, you know, the connection with a horse is incredibly strong because you're truly partners in this activity that you're performing in together. And so, you know, for me, if I buy an old crappy car and I don't have the money to fix it up, I can let it sit there for 6 months until I have the money. You can't do that with a horse. They need constant care and attention. Anyways, that horse passed away, and now she's sort of entering a new phase where she wants to do something. She wants to continue to ride, but also to be able to learn this new skill in the equine world. Anyways, I won't bore you with all the details. However, I will say two things. If you want to donate, and if you're so inclined, I will make you a Janky, a custom Jankified hat. Here are a couple examples. We have Janky resin adhesives. We have the Buffalo U-Jankit sale going on there in the fall of '91. I've made a million of these hats. We have the Buffalo U-Jankit and the Hunt Janky. These are just the ones I could pull up, you know, very instantly. They're all, you know, it's a Jankified hat, and some are more clever than others, and your mileage may vary whether you think this is a worthwhile investment. However, I just wanted to offer it as a little perk. So there's no obligation. Please do not feel obligated. But if you are so inclined and you want to make a donation, and you send an email to afjanky@gmail.com and say, hey, Beef Janky, I just want to let you know I donated to the Sweethearts Cause, and I would like a little Jankified hat. You know, give me an address I can send it to, and I'll whip up some Janky AF Jankified hats. It'll be a one-of-one custom bespoke hat, and they'll be completely random, you know, like you get what you get. But that's just a little Janky do Thanky if you are so inclined to donate. And the last thing I'll say is that even if you have watched 1 second of one videos, you have already helped donate to the cause, because all the ads you've had to slog through recently, which I apologize for, but you know, I did get 1,000 subscribers and I monetized this channel, and the first check of $118.89 is on its way to Old Beef Janky, and I have decided to donate that, as you can see, Janky painting, to the Sweethearts Cause. So just by watching these videos, you have already helped, and we say Janky do Thanky. Okay, all that being said, let's get back to this is not a horse, this is a van with, you know, over 100 horsepower. And what's interesting about that is one of the many things that are interesting about this van. Every time we see this van, we peel back a layer and get a little bit more information about this very special 1986 Aerostar. Of course, it is the first year of the Aerostar. This says 152,000. I believe the first listing said 200,000, so the mileage variation is all over the place. But let's just go ahead and read the seller's description, because we do have quite a bit of info here. 1986 Aerostar XLT with every option Ford offered, including rare electronic dash, which now is just something clicked in my brain there. 3.0 V6 engine, almost rust-free, originally from California. Alarm, DVD, TV, speakers, LED light bars, under lighting, amp, 6-disc CD, 3 screens, backup camera, and much more. It does read like a nice sales ad there. Interiors like new, custom hand-stitched seat covers and curtains. Needs exhaust manifold gasket. Radio is missing. One seat cover is missing. The audio and video stuff needs attention. Restore it to its former glory, or make it a camper, or gut it and use it as a work van. Let's hope not, though. Lots of potential here. Make me an offer. I have other projects and want this one gone. Very negotiable. Don't ask me what don't ask me what bottom dollar is. Show up with cash and find out. I like that. Might trade for nice golf cart, diesel truck. Who knows? But cash is king. You know, a nice golf cart and a diesel truck may seem like completely opposite ends of the spectrum. However, I can identify with that because I would like both a really nice golf cart and a diesel truck. You know, you just want to fulfill all the categories of the vehicle, and each one has their own sort of practical need or desire. I think this was at someone who owned a junkyard or a shop or something like that, maybe both. And I think maybe they got it in on trade, or someone sold it to them, or scrapping it or whatever, and it was like too nice to scrap. I think the last one, they said as much, the sort of one where it was, you know, just mentioning, I think it was like, I don't know, cheaper than this. But this thing just keeps hanging on and surviving, and it's funny. I didn't know it was a California car. That's new information. We kind of knew that it was kind of camperified a little bit with some of these screens and curtains and, you know, the great aftermarket stuff that these camper outfits would do. It does have the V6 logo here, although it's a little bit hard to see. That is the V6 logo, and then yet another example of a 1986 model year Aerostar that has the 3-liter V6 in it. So just completely obliterating the idea that the only engines offered that year were the 2.3 inline 4 and the 2.8 Cologne V6, which was carbureted, which was basically a earlier iteration of what would become the 4.0, which I didn't know until recently after doing some research. They're all the Cologne V6. It was the 2.8. It became the 4.0. The 3.0 is the Vulcan. It's a different thing. And the 2.3, obviously, a totally different thing too. The Lima, that was in Mustangs, that was in everything, you know, and you can turbocharge that engine, just as an aside, which I would like to sort of examine in my own 86. Neither here nor there. The fact is, this is an 86. Now, one thing I always thought was very funny, and there's actually a ton of pictures on this car, and some really good ones that I think will be, and I think this might be the winner for the YouTube thumbnail. In the original listing, there were a little bit more, like some wheel well plastic covers here, and a couple more doodads and things that seem to have been stripped from the van, which is interesting. I don't know if the previous owner just took them for their next project, or they just got damaged and got ripped off, or the new owners thought it looked better. We don't know. But it certainly still has, you know, quite a set of features of accessories. These grab handlebars with like the clear stalk in the middle. I do love the quote-unquote towing mirrors. I feel like these give especially the earlier Aerostars, such a distinctive look, and it looks more truck-like, it looks more rugged, it looks more substantive, and I think the tiny little side mirrors that most of the passenger vans got, I think practically it's probably a little bit of a better functioning mirror too. I have these on my 86, and I endeavor to put them maybe on all of my Aerostars because I just think they look so good. Now you have to like probably drill into the doors, so it's not the easiest operation, and then I don't know what, you know, if you rip this regular mirror off, if any of this sort of like door architecture was actually different, or if you can just sort of cap it. And the point is, I love the towing style mirrors. The roof visor, I'm still on the hunt for one of these, and there are a couple ones, but they're like, you know, 4 hours away, so it's a long way to drive just to buy, but they're kind of cheaper, and then you can see them online. They're more expensive, but this one even has the integrated lights. I love these roof visors. I think they look so good. They just totally complete the look on an Aerostar. Your little fog lights down here, I guess this is your LED light bar, and this like wonderful, what looks like to be like, what, a Doberman? Forgive me, I'm bad with the, is it a Doberman? A Rottweiler. It looks like a Rottweiler, right? Okay, so a really great shot here. We have a little bit higher resolution. I don't know where these wheels came from, but they're definitely aftermarket, but they certainly do look very nice on this generation Aerostar, any Aerostar. That for aftermarket wheels, I think they really do fit the picture. They look like maybe just a little bit bigger than stock, but maybe they are just regular 14s. And obviously this limousine accessory here, which I never knew what it was, and then someone in the comments thankfully pointed out to me this is a radio antenna. But to see that radio antenna that you usually see on a limousine on an Aerostar is very, very funny to me. You know, goes with the whole multimedia package that's on this Aerostar. That needs some attention. The audio and video stuff needs some attention. The back ladder I think is really awesome. Now I'm not sure why you'd be climbing up onto the back of this Aerostar necessarily. You know, it doesn't have like a bigger roof rack or like a camping box or anything like that, but you know, why not? And it looks like it's been installed in such a way that you can just lift up the rear liftgate here and it would, you know, lift right up. It's not going to obstruct anything. This, I'm guessing, is your electronic fuel injection badge, which would make sense for the 3-liter because that was always fuel injected. This part is funny to me because I always clowned on this part because it says electronic, and this was clearly taken from the electronic 4-wheel drive badge that the Aerostar had on the 4-wheel drive versions, and then it was sort of like, you know, photoshopped around to just say electronic, but it doesn't say electronic 4-wheel drive, and this is not an electronic 4-wheel drive model, so at least they're not lying about it. But I was like, what is electronic about it? Like the fuel ignition, the fuel injection, I guess, is electronic, so maybe that's the thing. But then I'm realizing that this, in the description, they say including the rare electronic dash. So maybe the combination of the electronic dash and the electronic fuel injection, even though it doesn't have electronic 4-wheel drive, it was enough electronics to warrant an electronic badge on the side, in chrome no less, on the side of this Aerostar. So I think it's such a funny, just sign of the times, like, oh, it's electronic, you know, like, but it's so vague and it doesn't really, you know, what's electronic about it? Who cares? It's electronic. It must be, you know, fancy and modern. I just think that's so funny. And if it is bragging about either the dashboard or the fuel injection or both, then it's like fun. It's like it's like the electronic package on the Aerostar, or maybe the fact that it's got all this multimedia systems in it. I mean, it's quite appropriate. It's fitting for what this Aerostar is specifically, but it's also just hilarious how just vague it is. So I really like that. I guess these are PCW wheels. A really sharp wheel, and you can see that this is like kind of sort of a classic Ford. They had a very stylish V8 symbol way back in the day, like the 30s, and they have this V6 symbol, which is also like kind of classic. To me, it almost looks out of place because it looks a little too much 60s, 70s to be on an Aerostar. But I do, they put those on the V6 models because it was kind of a big deal at the time. So I appreciate that it's still on there. It really does seem like it's in great condition, and this cream with like dark blue accent seems to be like a factory color combination, which in 86 makes sense. Like I think they had all sorts of wild color combinations, but beige with dark blue and then a gray and red interior, like this is just a lot going on here. This is like this subwoofer that's kind of looks factory-ish the way it's squelched into this door card here. I mean, the speaker itself doesn't look factory, but the way it's integrated into the door card, not bad. Again, all this, and here's your trip computer. I mean, it does seem to be like sort of top of the line. The fact that it had the 3.0, the fact that it's got the trip computer and this sort of like electronic cluster up here was very, very cool, especially way up here. It kind of reminds you of being in like an airplane or a spaceship. So it has that whole Aerostar, 1980s forward-looking space age thing going on, which is great. I wish we had a better view of the actual electronic dash in here, because I know they did offer them from the start, and it's a slightly different dashboard, which in some ways is cooler and like sort of more 80s and retro than in the 90s after 92 and the sort of interior facelift. There was a digital dash offered, but it was slightly different than the original digital dash, and then there was the analog dash in both of those versions. So there's 4 separate total, I believe, sort of dash clusters offered, which is kind of funny for just like a basic minivan. But it's funny that they offered both electronic and analog in both instances, in both sort of interior configurations. Obviously, automatic transmission, your giant shifter stalk, which now I actually have one of these, and I never knew that, even though I haven't, spoiler alert, but I haven't actually driven my new Aerostar yet. But I just figured you push the button in and went back, but it actually goes to the side, sort of like a fancy Jaguar or something. The lever goes to the side and then back, which is a pretty nice action, I gotta say. That big shift lever there. This is just hilarious. Thank you for not smoking. And was this part of like the outfitter's custom thing? Like you got your chromed sign here, and then it looks like we have. This is like your equalizer, which I think was factory, but then you have like a secondary accessory control, maybe for your video or rear audio controls or something like that. Again, these hand-stitched seat covers, impressive that someone went through the effort. Not exactly my cup of tea, but I do love that it has the curtains with it. Here's some sort of screen, very like peak like 90s. I mean, it is a flat screen. It's not like a big CRT monitor in there. But again, if you're and that one's actually in the headrest. Okay, impressive. But look at this just jumble of wires, all these like RCA cables just like coming out of your ceiling. I mean, they must have taken the whole headlighter down, wired the whole thing, and then it's impressive. But again, if you're buying this car just for the multimedia entertainment system. You know, maybe that's, if you really wanted that, you'd probably have to upgrade everything. But it's definitely a cool, like, sort of time capsule. Here you have this, again, beautiful radio antenna. I love the style. It's like peak 90s limousine. And the roof rack, but of course the roof rack is sort of compromised by this giant radio antenna, but it has the ladder on the back too, so it's kind of overbuilt. Okay, so it looks like they probably didn't even tear out the headliner. They just have this giant box, so all your controls are in here. And yeah, needs attention. I think that's accurate. Looks like you do have the rear climate controls here too, which is nice, down in here. And seat cushion missing, although we do have captain's chairs, which is very nice. Again, the gray with the red piping. Again, for, you know, a car that's 96, 2006, 2016, 2000, almost 40 years old. Probably is 40 years old because it was probably made in, you know, 85 or so. Almost 40 years old. Got some simple green there, I like that. Pretty incredible condition overall. A little warping here and there going on in the dashboard. Now, I don't know what I'm wondering all this is. Is this more like radio antenna stuff going on here? Captain's chairs, that's cool. And I think this is my last favorite part, is this backup camera is the funniest placement of a backup camera because it's actually inside of the vehicle. Now it may work, actually, it's kind of a good idea because a lot of backup cameras now, especially if you're in the Northeast or it's raining and we're in the springtime, the fall, it gets all schmutzy and you're full of mud and water and it's totally pointless unless you go wipe it off, but then it immediately covers up, like on my Prius does it all the time. Half the time you can't even see it. So it's kind of a good idea to have it inside the windshield. Then again, the windshield can still get mucked up, but in theory your rear wiper can wipe it away. So it's kind of a good idea. But I do wonder, going through the glass at an angle, how good your rear visibility is. Maybe it's great. I mean, I certainly, and you would just think it would get hit or knocked around with people or stuff. It's a funny, I've never seen a rear view camera location there, but I appreciate it, and it looks kind of funny. So I like that. Here's all your many manuals of all the electronics that have been dumped into this van, as well as looks like some plain almonds, which that's you know, great. I support that. It's a good healthy snack. So there you have it. I mean, if you have a nice golf cart or a diesel truck you want to trade for this, I'm sure, I really do like the description too. I only read it once. We didn't really focus on it, but I like the energy of the person who's selling it. Sounds like they've sold stuff before, a little bit of a salesman's, you know, sort of upbeat hype, but also, you know, there's some transparency and honesty in there too, so we can appreciate that, right? Don't ask me what bottom dollar is. Show up with cash and find out. I mean, that sounds like a great invitation to me, you know? Realistically, I mean, you know, depending on how long they've had this thing, which seems like a while if it is the same people that had it at the junkyard and just couldn't bear to scrap it, which I appreciate. You know, maybe you're getting this thing for, yeah, it's got 152,000. Maybe you're getting this thing for 1,500, 1,700, something like that. But for a running, driving Aerostar, it's certainly great. I love the first generation grille. And we have this little air splitter down here, which is interesting. I wonder if this bumper came off of a sport model, or maybe you can just buy this individual piece. I think some of you will probably know that if you can buy this little lower sort of addendum to your bumper. And that certainly does make sense to have if you're going to put those little fog lights on. So just a really, really great Aerostar. So I think that'll do it. Episode number 24 and now 137 plus the remix. So this one, I mean, hopefully this gets bought, and then, you know, maybe in a year or two it ends up on Bring a Trailer or something like that. If someone's like done a full refresh on it, or if you are the buyer of this van, please let me know. I'd love to hear how you make out with it. I just think it's great that this is a true survivor. It's still on the road, and it seems like it's been rescued quite a few times. So there you have it, a really striking, handsome, dashing.
The handsome, dashing Ford Aerostar.
1986 Ford Aerostar XLT minivan. Thank you so much for watching this episode, and again for listening to me blather about my little pitch there. If you're tuning in late for some reason, I don't know how that could happen. This isn't a television show. We're doing a shameless plug for my sweetheart's little fundraiser to try to raise some donations to try to put herself through what she lovingly calls pony rubbing school, but it is a very scientific discipline which you can look into if you'd like. There you have it. Thank you everybody for watching. We're going to update you soon on the new acquisition to the Janky fleet, the 1990 Ford Aerostar. Very, very excited with the red interior. And we'll have all manner of janky things coming your way. So, one more time, we say we'll have another Janky AF Year of the Aerostar coming to this channel very soon. And until then, Janky do thanky.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.